Alright guys, today we're here to do a video that's different from the videos that I usually make, and this one's going to be on a tour of my modded console collection. A lot of people think that when you have modded consoles, you must not have any reason to collect games anymore, and that's obviously not further from the truth. I have almost 2,000 games at this point. I still collect for every system, even the ones that I have modded for. So I thought it'd be interesting to show you what consoles I have modded, and give you guys a reason as I'm showing you some of the consoles on why I modded them and how I keep my motivation going for, to continue to collect. Because obviously if you mod a system, you could potentially just throw every game on there for, in total and never have to collect again. But I don't do it that way because I love the collecting. I love hunting these games. I love showing them off. I love looking at the collection when I come down here. But I also don't want to buy 4 copies of the same game to be able to do local wireless multiplayer. So there are some reasons to mod systems even as a collector, besides just ease of use to just have all the games with you. So that's what we want to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so let's start with the first thing. We're going to go from oldest console to newest here. And one of the first things that I have here is the Atari 2600 Harmony flash card. So this is obviously not a mod to an actual system, but it is a flash card that I use that I thought would be interesting to talk about on why I would use a flash card if I collect video games and I collect, for the 2600. And the simple fact is for a couple of reasons, and this is kind of going to be a theory for a lot of my other systems as well. It's not to get games that I obviously collect for, but it's to get games that are either homebrew. For the 2600, there's a lot of those on here, or games that are just way out of reach for most of us. Like, I'm not buying like a $2,000 copy of any game out there. So if any of the games on the 2600 cost, a lot of money, granted there hardly is any, they would be on this flash card. But mostly this flash card was bought for all the homebrew that exists on the 2600. The next one that we have here is the NES Mini, as you guys are looking here. And again, this is kind of the same philosophy. I have the NES Mini, even though I have a full NES with a lot of games, I keep the games on here that are either Japanese games that obviously I can't play in the US, or it's going to be really hard to come by, or it's going to be games that are going to be impossible for me to actually get. So, games that cost like over $1,000, the really extremely rare games that I'm probably never going to come across, but I'd rather play, things like the Nintendo World Championship cart. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to find this and pay like, thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's kind of the things that sit on here. So you can see some of the games that are on here that I may have put on here that are really rare and expensive that I may want to play. Stadium Events is on here and stuff like that. Again, a cart that I'm probably never going to be able to get. And that's what most of these are like. And I can go ahead and just scroll through these to look at these games. Of course, I also kept the original games on here that the system came with. So those are still on here if I want them to be. So I can get to those anytime I want. But I could also, besides the originals, just click on here and see more of my games that are on here that are, again, really expensive games like Bonk's Adventure and Chippendales 2 and stuff like that. So I have a bunch of different games on here that I can kind of scroll through, my little Samson and stuff like that, that I could get to when I want to, get those rare and expensive games. Because, unfortunately, a lot of us aren't going to be able to play these games if we just rely on stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what I use my NES Classic for, and why I have a modded system for that. And the next one I have here is the SNES Classic. So this one's also modded that I have as well. And this kind of goes through the same theory. Most of these are games that are a little bit hard to come by. Some of these are obviously the ones that it came with. But then I sprinkled in some of the ones that I added on here, like Earthbound and stuff. And some of the games that they're obviously expensive on the Super Nintendo since they're hard to find. Or some of the ones that never even released, which this came with, which is cool, which is Star Fox 2 that never actually got a release. We got some other high-profile games on here. Again, you're seeing some of the common ones as well because that's what the SNES Classic came with. That's not ones I added technically with the mod. But there are some games that I added on here with the mod, like Earthbound was one of them. And if I keep going along this list here, you can see some others. You can kind of scroll through and see all of the games that I have on here. So you can see all the original games are in here, and then I have all the folders for, all the expensive and hard to find and Japanese games and stuff like that that you can kind of scroll through. which is really cool to have them easily accessible on here. I even threw some of the Game Boy Advance games on here, so I did the same thing with Game Boy Advance since they're easily playable on the SNES Classic. Some of the Game Boy Advance games are also really expensive and hard to find, so we got some here. So you'll see some of those on there sometimes that I threw in here just for the purposes of putting them on here. So a lot of fun, a lot of fun to have all of these games really easily and accessible on here. So SNES Classic, really, really fun to be able to mod. Really easy to do, and you could just add the games that you actually want on here that are more expensive or harder to find that you can just easily play on your SNES Classic. The next modded console that I have on here is the Sega Genesis Mini, keeping with the mini theme here. So again, we have some of the games that this thing came with. We have some Japanese exclusives on here. We have some hard-to-find Genesis games on here as well, along with the ones that, of course, that came with the Genesis Mini that stayed on here. But you can see we have a bunch of different games on here that came on here, and some of the ones that I added on here as well for the exact same purposes as we've been talking about this whole time. And the next console that I have here that's modded as well is the PlayStation Classic. This one is, of course, used for the same thing. We got some Japanese titles. We got some hard-to-find PlayStation 1 games as well. We got Bloody Roar here. We got Bomberman World. A bunch of different games on here that are really fun to have on here that play well as well, which is cool. Here's a good one, JoJo's Bizarre World. We got the Klonoa series. This is a Japanese Klonoa beach volleyball, so that's cool to have that on there. Got the Medieval series. Got Silent Hill, Starfighter. So a bunch of different games on here. We got Team Buddies. So a lot of cool games on here that got the Toomba games on here as well. Wild Arms. So we got a few different PlayStation games on here hacked with the PlayStation 1 Classic to be able to play these games a lot easier on the TV, and it's been fun having the PlayStation 1 Classic. Even though it wasn't a great system when it came out, with a lot of issues, having it modded and having access to these harder to find games and expensive and rare games in Japanese titles is awesome. So the next console we have to talk about here is one of my favorite consoles of all time, and that is the original Xbox. And this original Xbox is a little bit different than all the consoles we've talked about so far, because all the other consoles I had them modded because, like, we talked about Japanese games and harder to find games. But the original Xbox, that's not the case. None of those reasons apply here. The reason that I have the original Xbox modded is because of System Link. I have 4 different consoles, four different TVs, and when my friends come over, as we used to do when we were kids, we do System Link games. So I have a modded system that we're looking at right now. If we look down here, that is the modded console that we're looking at here. That's the Crystal Xbox. So we have that one modded really nicely, and I'm going to show you a little bit around here. So I have a bunch of different games on here that are installed and ready to go for System Link. So I just have a bunch of different games on here, like the usual Halo 2 and Hitman and all that stuff that we can play System Link really easily. Come on here and basically just scroll through, click on any of the letters, and you got access to all of these games. If I remember correctly, this is a 2 terabyte drive with all of these games that are installed on here that are all ready to go as soon as we want to, which is fantastic. And the way that I know a lot of you guys may be wondering, how do you motivate yourself to collect when you have modded systems like those? Like the original Xbox, I have a 2 terabyte drive, every single game's installed on here. Well, the way I do it is I have 3 original Xboxes. They're all modded. All of them have, they're all modded out with all the games and stuff. But what I do is I use a 360 as the 4th console, which plays like 90% of every game that I could want for System Link. And that is where I put a physical copy in the game. So that motivates me to say, hey, if I want to play System Link with this game, I need that copy and 1 copy of that game at least, and then all the other 3 run on the original Xbox. So I always have a copy of every game for System Link, and then I use the original Xbox's hard drive to store the other 3, because I don't want to buy 3 copies of every game, or 4 copies of every game. So I just buy 1, use it for 1 system. That motivates me to collect, and then I have all the other Xboxes kind of ready to go. And I have this Crystal Xbox as we talked about here. If we go around the room here, The other original Xbox that we have is right here. This one's also, I think this one is a 500 gig drive. That's the original black Xbox here when we play that on this TV here. And then if we go into the main projector room, you can see we have the Halo 2 Xbox sitting down there. And that is my, complete modded Xbox. That thing has a 2 terabyte drive. It has every emulator. It has every single game you can think of, nicely organized. It has a bunch of stuff that you can play on there with just not just the regular Xbox games. There's like a lot of cheat codes, like the GTA San Andreas Coffee mod is on there. A lot of things that you can basically play on there. The next console that we got to talk about here is the original Wii. As you guys can see here, I have this one modded as well with a 2 terabyte hard drive. We got some things here at the main menu like Super Smash Brothers, Pokemon Snap is on here, WarioWare DIY, an Uno game. The homebrew channels there. We got Mario Party 2 sitting on there. Toki Toki. We got Tetris Party, Retro City Rampage, Phoenix Wright, Arkanoid. So those are some of the games that are on here. And then here we have the Wii games, of course, on the main menu here. So you can see we have a bunch of different Wii games. This ranges from Japanese stuff to hard to find stuff to just random things I decided to throw on here. I have 2 Wiis in the house. I have one that goes on this TV and one that goes on the bigger projector. So the disc-based games go on the Wii U if I want to play those. And then here are some of the other games as well. So we have some of the harder to find games, some of the fun games, some of the weird games like we do here. The Hannah Montana movie. So just a different collection of different Wii games that I want to play on here that are, like this one. Mario Kart Fun is obviously a hack of Mario Kart, so that's a cool reason to hack your Wii, because obviously this isn't something that actually released. So that's really cool to have on here and be able to play. They did some good job on there. Just some weirder games on here that you can play. And then on top of the fact that we also have some GameCube games on here as well. So you can see we have Battle Wars, we have Billy Hatcher, Bleach, Chibi Robo, Kerbivore, Disney Sports Basketball, Donkey Konga, the series, Gotcha Force is on here, Harvest Moon's on here, Nintendo Puzzle Collection, the Pikmin games are on here, Resident Evil, Pokemon Coliseum. Just some of the games that are obviously hard to find. On the GameCube are really expensive. I just threw on here as well, just to have them on here, just for the sake of having them. Alright, so the next one on this list is my Xbox 360, and as you can see here, we're looking at the Halo edition down there. That is the original Xbox there that I have, along with, of course, the special edition controller. And the reason that I have this one modded as well goes back to a couple of reasons. One, I actually also am a really big fan of System Link on the original, or on the Xbox 360 as well. But this one in particular is not actually for System Link. I do have other Xboxes. I have a Halo Xbox, all of them that are not modded. I actually have multiple copies of the original Xbox. Because System Link seems to have a hard time when you use a JTAG Xbox 360 with regular ones. It always seems to have issues with System Link. So I got rid of that idea and basically used my other 3 Xbox 360s for System Link, along with an Xbox One, which covers me for every System Link game I basically want to play. So we use 3 original Xboxes that I have laying around the house. I have the Xbox 360 Halo Edition. I have the Star Wars as well, the Kinect Star Wars one, and another Xbox 360 around whenever I want to do that. But this one in particular is being used for just games that are hard to get, or hard to get anymore, like Xbox Live Arcade games that are eventually going to become harder to get once those servers go offline, and also Japanese games. So Japanese games is also another thing that I have on here. So this is basically my Japanese and Xbox Live Arcade system, as you can see here, for this 360. So you can see I have a bunch of different Xbox Live games. I also have some games that I'm really a big fan of, like Blur, that's on here. And then most of these, though, are all Japanese games for the most part. And then just some Call of Duty games on here. If I want to play those, I have every single Call of Duty game ready to go. Again, more Xbox Live Arcade games. Here's some other Japanese games. So some really good Japanese exclusive games that came out that are easy to play even if you don't understand Japanese, and that's what I have these on here for. But like I said, most of these are a combination of Live Arcade games. and Japanese games for 90% of what the purpose of this Xbox is. This one's on here just because of having a bunch of different mods that you can do that are insane, so those are fun to always mess around with those. So yeah, you can see we have a bunch of different games on here that we can play from the Xbox Live Arcade days in case those servers ever go offline, and a bunch of different Japanese games. We got this Outrun Online Arcade one, which is fantastic. Radiant Silvergun's another good one. Rock Band Blitz, who remembers that? Root Beer Tapper. The Sega Rally Online Arcade game. And some of these games, I don't even know if they're still up, because, you know, rights and stuff, sometimes things get screwed up. Like the Rock Band one, I'm not sure if it's still up on there anymore. Senmora, no. We have a bunch of different classics on here for the Xbox Live Arcade that are really fun to play, that I have all on here ready to go. So that's what I use my 360 for, the modded one at least. All the other ones are used for System Link. So the next one that we have here that's modded as well is my PlayStation 3 Slim. The reason that this one is modded is for some of those games on the PSN store, as we talked about with the 360, in case those ever disappear from the PlayStation store. They're here backed up and ready to go anytime I want. And also, since this being a Sony 3D TV, I also have some 3D games on the PlayStation hard drive ready to go. So you can see we have like Fat Princess on here, we have Pain, Hustle Kings, Tokyo Jungle, High Velocity Bowling, Baseball Stars, Crisis 3, Black Ops 2. So these are some of the games that are on either 3D or on the PlayStation Store that you never know when they're going to go away. So we have a bunch of different games on here. Who remembers Calling All Cars, like the game that started the Rocket League craze? Can't forget about that. We also have some games on here that I maybe just don't own on the PlayStation 3 and wanted to try for a certain reason. So this is a mixed bag of a lot of things. We got the Ridge Racer 7 with a 3D patch, which is awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of good games on here. Like I said, most of them are either for 3D purposes. A couple of them are for System Link, because there's not as many PlayStation 3 System Link that I care about, because 360 is my main go-to. But I do have a couple on here that I can use my two PlayStation 3s that I have. One in this room and one in the projector room if I wanted to do some System Link with certain games. Those are on here. Alright, so the next one we got to talk about too is my DS collection. So you can see I have the original DS right there. I have the DSi sitting right there. I have the DS Lite. I have the DSi XL as well. So all four of these. So these aren't modded per se, but they all have flash carts in them. As you can see, if I take this one out here, there's two flash carts in them. So you can see right here, this is the flash cart that I'm using in all these these two DSs. So I have two of them with these flash carts right now that have all the games that I need access to. It only has the games that have not System Link, but local play. So you can see here, I still have a easy way to collect. So I do the exact same thing on here to keep my motivation for collecting still present. So basically what happens is that I have two flash carts on here. I still need to get a third for one of the other systems. So these two have flash carts right now. I need to get one more for the DS Lite. And then one of them won't have a flash cart. So basically what that means is if I want to be able to play those games that, you know, like Metroid Prime Hunters, that has a lot more modes when you use, instead of just a single cart, if you use multiple carts and everyone has their own. If I want to be able to play that game, I'm going to need a copy of that game in my collection, because it's going to have to go on one of the other systems, and then the other three have these flash carts. And again, I'm not going to buy 3 copies of every game, especially for like expensive games like Metroid Prime and Bomberman Land 2, like you're seeing there. You don't want to buy 2 copies of those. So what I do is I just have flash carts for 3. I have 1 copy for each game for the other DS, and then I'm basically good to go at that point. And moving on to the side of that is the same mentality. So I love the 3DS and I love the 2DS, or basically play the same games, and I have the same thing. So basically 2 of these DSs are currently modded. So we have the Super Smash Brothers 3 of them are modded. We have the Smash Brothers version right here. That one is modded. We have the Zelda edition. That one is modded. We have the 2DS Super Mario Maker. That one is modded. They all have all the games on there that require, you know, to be able to play, because a lot of these games don't let you do single cart play. A lot of them you needed multi-cart. So again, I don't want to buy 4 copies of every game. So those 3 are modded. And then if we come over here, you can see that I have the Pokemon 2DS sitting back there, and that is the one where all the real cards go onto. So I have 3 modded and 1 not, and again, that keeps my motivation going for collecting 3DS games and having the collection sitting there with 3 of them modded and 1 of them not. Keeping the same energy going down here is the PSP. So you can see I have 3 copies of the PSP right now. I have the PSP for God of War. I have that special edition. I have a regular PSP, and then I have the PSP Go sitting right there. PSP Go is modded, and so is this regular one right here. So 2 of them are modded with all of the games that I need for playing, again, local play, which is fantastic. And then I also have this one that's not. So this is where the God of War one gets the actual UMDs in there when I want to play it. And for the 4th one, when we want to do 4, at least for the time being, until I find another PSP that I want to use again. But for now, if someone came over today and they wanted to play a game and there was 4 of us, I still have the Vitas right next to me. And these Vitas actually give me the ability to... I have PSP games on there as well, because both of these are modded. And I can play, take 3 PSPs over there, and then this one is modded. So basically I have 3 ways of playing PSP on a modded system, 2 over there, and 1 from the Vita. And then this one gets the UMDs, and then we have 4 PSPs being able to play local player games. And then moving over here, we have the Vita collection. Like I just said, both of these are modded. I do want to get 2 more Vitas so we can play 4-player Vita games, of course. But right now, that is the only system I think that I am not set up to play with 4 players that has the ability to. That and the Nintendo Switch, because that's too expensive still to get that currently done. I don't want 4 copies of all those games either. But I do have 2 right now, and both of these are modded. I'm looking to get a 3rd. My next one is probably going to be the Persona version, and that one's going to be not modded. That way I have that one for all my actual discs. But right now, both of these are modded. They both have PSP games. They both have all the Vita games that require it to be able to play local play. So that's fantastic, and I love having that as part of the collection. And the other system that I have modded as well, but I'm not going to turn it on because it's nothing special going on right now, is the Wii U. So I have the Zelda Edition Wii U. That one is also modded as well. You could play GameCube games on there and Wii games, and Wii U. But the Wii U collection is already kind of sitting there. There's not a lot of games for it, especially ones that I actually care about. So I have the Wii U modded just for the sake of having it modded, but I don't really have anything on there that I really care about, because anytime I want to play Wii U games, I usually already have the game. So I just take the disc out and put it in the Wii U. When it comes to Wii games, I usually use the disc in this room for the Wii games that I actually have, and then the other modded system stays over there. So usually I put the discs in here for all of those, and just leave it at that. And then the GameCube games, I already have a GameCube sitting right there with the component cables. They're really expensive component cables. They're already sitting there for the projector, so I already get really good quality directly from a GameCube. So I really don't do that for the Wii U as well. So yeah, the Wii U is just kind of modded with a couple of games just to have them on there to say that it's modded, but I'm not really doing anything special with the Wii U just because I don't really have a reason to. And the last modded system that I have is the PlayStation Vita TV. I can't really show you that right now because I gotta get some controllers for it to actually work. But I have used this before, the PlayStation Vita TV. I have all the PlayStation Vita games on there that let me do System Link. So technically I can play 2 players on the modded Vitas that we talked about that are sitting over there. I can technically have 2 players on the handhelds. And for any of the local stuff, I could have a 3rd person sitting over here on this TV, because all the games are on here and we can play them there. So I have some exclusive Japanese games on there and some other Vita games on there as well. Alright guys, and that is my modded collection that I have with all my systems here, all the ones that I have here, and all my DSs and 3DSs that I showed you guys there. I hope you guys found that a little bit useful on why a collector would want to collect, or not collect, but have modded systems, because a lot of people think, like, when you mod a system, that means where would your motivation come from collecting? But as we spoke about throughout the video, I have a lot of motivation to still collect for these things, because I make sure that when I mod my systems, they're actually serving a purpose. Like, I don't just mod them to have access to every game, because that would definitely hinder my ability to actually collect and kill my motivation a little bit. So I only mod systems that actually have a purpose and actually make sense. Like we talked about with, the PlayStation 3, where it being 3D games and Japanese games and PlayStation Network games that I can't get on disc anyway. Or where we talk about the original Xbox, where I use it for System Link, so 3 of them are modded and 1 isn't, and that's where the disc goes, so I always keep on collecting. I have the 360 one that's only exclusive to Japanese games and Xbox Live Arcade games. So that one obviously doesn't deter me from anything. And then the 3DS, like I said, 3 of them are modded and 1 of them isn't, so that keeps me collecting, because if I want to play those, local wireless with everyone, then that's going to be the same thing. The DS, same exact thing. PSP, same thing. And Vita, same thing. So I always have, the ideas in my head on how to keep me collecting, because I don't want to buy 4 copies of the same game to be able to play local play, but I don't want to have every system modded either, because not only sometimes do you lose online play. For example, if the Vita is modded, I don't want to risk getting banned on my PlayStation Network account or anything like that, or on the 3DS. But also the fact that 3 of them are modded and it keeps me collecting and stuff. So I hope that gives you guys some insight on how I do my modding and stuff like that, and how I keep my motivation high to keep on collecting. So if you guys have any questions about what you guys saw in today's video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.